However, we are continuing to see both sides really draw their own lines in the sand with, for example, Senator Thune this morning, who is the top Republican in the Senate, going so far as to say that he cannot make commitments or promises on COVID subsidies because he can't guarantee that they'll have the votes for it, which is probably, assumably, a bit of a setback for a lot of these Democrats who are looking for maybe an off-ramp here. Here is some of what we're hearing from top leaders just within the morning hours.
The ball is in the courts of the Democrats, not the Republicans. The Republicans have done our job, done our work. And now Chuck Schumer and 43 of his colleagues have to decide to do the right thing.
Republicans, unfortunately, have shown no interest in doing anything responsible to address the health care crisis that they've created because they want to continue to wreak havoc on the American people.
Now, as you mentioned, in terms of the timing of everything, it's next hour that we're expecting to see these two bills once again to be put up for a vote, both the Democrat version, which includes those various health care changes that they are pushing for, and also the Republican bill, which came over from the House, which doesn't include those changes. Neither are expected to pass, and then we will head into the weekend with lawmakers not here. At least that's the current plan as it stands right now. That means that this shutdown is going to drag into next week. And the question is, what will the consequences continue to look like if the Trump administration goes ahead with its various plans for firings and more cuts?
So, Congressman, there's a new poll out. It's from a nonpartisan health policy research group, KKK. Look, we've known that the Affordable Care Act is popular, but look at this. 78% say Congress should extend the subsidies for Affordable Care Act plans. And, of course, that is the central obstacle to ending this shutdown. It includes, the Kaiser Family Foundation poll also says that 59% of Republicans and 57% of MAGA supporters are included in that support. But does that make any difference to Republicans? What do you think?
Well, what I think is going to happen that at some point these premium subsidies under the Affordable Care Act will be extended simply because there are enough Republicans in the Congress who will want to extend them. They are facing pressure on the health care issue, Republicans, particularly after the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill that made various changes and cuts to Medicaid. And so Republicans know they're vulnerable on the health care issue. I don't happen to think that these premium subsidies will be extended during the shutdown. So the Democrats are probably going to have to try to get some assurances. I think Kevin Cramer in his assessment was absolutely correct that ordinarily the party that is making the policy demand, in this case, the Democrats, would be blamed for the shutdown. But with President Trump out there saying that there's a lot of good that can happen during shutdowns and his OMB director, Russ Vought, threatening mass firings, this can boomerang back on the Republicans. So, but for now, I would say the Democrats are probably not going to get anything in this this fight over the continuing resolution, but I think they are going to win on the premium subsidy issue because Republicans need this for their own electoral chances in next November.
Let me read for you something, Congressman, that Susan Glasser wrote in The New Yorker. She says Trump's offer to the Democrats right now can be summed up as nothing more than the demands of a hostage taker. Stop me before I cut again. I wonder if you agree with her, and particularly with Cramer, that there were ways for his party to play this, but this isn't it.
Yeah, I think, again, Cramer's absolutely right that, the president is going to use his office. He and the OMB director are going to try to pressure the Democrats as much as they can. You saw they're making cuts to the MTA up in New York on the big Gateway Tunnel project.
So, Leader Jeffries, it's, I guess, a very 2025 thing that we're dealing with this. But as part of these negotiations, apparently a feature AI-themed videos that President Trump is sending out of you. One the other day, in which you're featuring wearing a sombrero and a mustache, and you alongside Senator Schumer saying, things that you did not actually say. And then one posted overnight where President Trump, with a Trump 2028 hat, which he did actually have on his desk in your meeting with him, he threw it in this video on your head and laughed. Can you just talk to us about what that meeting was like with the President of the United States, and what is your response to these antics here at a moment when the government is shut down?
Well, it's further confirmation that Republicans are the ones who were clearly determined to shut the government down, because everything that President Trump has done subsequent to Monday has been unhinged and unserious. In fact, Donald Trump is in the Presidential Witness Protection Program. No one can find him when it comes to the government shutdown issue, because he knows he's responsible for having caused it. And the behavior, the erratic behavior that we've seen, is further confirmation of that unfortunate fact. Yet, as Democrats, Leader Schumer, myself, House Democrats, Senate Democrats, we've been clear. Listen, we'll sit down in good faith. We need to reopen the government in this Trump Republican government shutdown, and we can find a bipartisan path toward a spending agreement. But that spending agreement has to actually meet the needs of the American people in terms of their health, their safety, and their economic well-being, particularly as it relates to driving down the high cost of living and lowering health care costs, as opposed to driving millions of Americans into medical bankruptcy because of the Republicans' refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits.
Leader Jeffries, hey, Heilman here. So this is, I want to ask about the politics of this, right? We
can all imagine what it would feel like. Every one of us. It's harrowing. Not knowing if you still have a job. If your job, your livelihood, the thing that gives you the ability to pay for everything in your life, to support your kids, to buy food, to keep up on your car payment and your mortgage payment and your rent payment. Will it be there tomorrow? As we speak, the fate of hundreds of thousands of human beings, federal workers, is that fear, that anxiety, as it all hangs in the balance. As Trump effectively flirts with mass government firings. He's doing so under the pretext of what is now a 3-day-old government shutdown. Late today, the Senate again voted down a pair of stopgap funding measures, and now lawmakers are leaving. They're done. They're going to go have a weekend because they don't have to worry about those sorts of things. But for government workers, the best-case scenario right now is that Trump's threat of mass firings is just more talk, just a threat, a negotiation tactic. What the New Yorker's Susan Glasser called, quote, nothing more than the demand of a hostage taker, stop me before I cut again, end quote. Or perhaps mass firings really are the point, not the distraction, but the end game. Maybe they're imminent. After all, last night, Trump posted a bizarre AI-generated video. He's doing that more and more lately. It depicts OMB Director Russ Vought of Project 2025 fame, to quote Donald Trump, as the Grim Reaper, actually. But new reporting in the Washington Post today, citing two people familiar with the matter, suggests some senior federal officials have quietly counseled several agencies against firing employees while the government is shut down, warning that the strategy may violate appropriations law. Ding, 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 like our third illegal story of the day. I want to bring into our coverage Kelly Daly. She's a specialist for AmeriCorps and is currently furloughed as a result of this shutdown. She's also the president of the AFSCME Local 2027 Union. Angelo is back with us. Angelo, first, take me inside your analysis of this question hanging in the air, whether the shutdown is a pretext for firings or whether it is the talk of firing hundreds of thousands of people with lives and families and car loans and student loans and jobs is just collateral as part of a negotiating tactic.
I mean, you know, one, there's two things that I would look to say to figure out what the true intention here is. Obviously, Project 2025, they were very clear about the amount of federal employees they intended to terminate, fire, and lay off. And we're not even halfway to the number that they sort of, you know, put together in Project 2025. They've so far gotten rid of about 200,000. But I think there's something more revealing, which is that if you look at next year's budget, which of course, that's not even really being talked about right now, right? They're not even trying to pass the budget, but they still put together some version of a document. And
the government shutdown has once again thrown the nation into uncertainty. And frankly, it's hard not to feel the tension seep into every corner of daily life. From Capitol Hill, the scene is chaotic yet strangely routine. Lawmakers preparing to vote yet again on short-term funding bills that history tells us are doomed to fail. The Senate is bracing for another round of votes, but the signs of compromise are faint, almost imperceptible. Senate GOP leader John Thune's statement suggests there will be no weekend votes if the measures fail, which feels like a polite way of saying, don't hold your breath. Both Democrats and Republicans seem entrenched in their positions, drawing lines in the sand that grow wider with every press briefing. For ordinary Americans, this isn't just political theater. It's anxiety over paychecks, healthcare, and the basic functioning of government. The healthcare debate, particularly over the Affordable Care Act subsidies, has emerged as a flashpoint. Polls show overwhelming public support for extending these subsidies, cutting across party lines. Even some Republicans and MAGA supporters back the measure. Yet, partisan gridlock persists. Republicans are facing pressure, acutely aware that voters care deeply about healthcare access and affordability. Meanwhile, Democrats are trying to leverage public sentiment, positioning themselves as the party protecting Americans from economic hardship and medical insecurity. The messaging battle is intense, and each failed vote amplifies the stakes. Amid this legislative deadlock, President Trump's actions and antics add another layer of drama. From AI-generated videos portraying officials in bizarre ways to threats of mass firings, the approach feels more performative than practical, a mixture of showmanship and psychological pressure. Federal employees are caught in the crossfire, facing uncertainty about paychecks and futures while being used as pawns in a high-stakes negotiation. Experts argue that firings aren't truly necessitated by the shutdown. They are part of a broader agenda to reduce the federal workforce, intensifying fear and compliance among employees. What's particularly unsettling is the human impact of these tactics. The threat of losing one's livelihood, the anxiety over healthcare, and the looming question of who will be next on the chopping block create a tense, almost surreal atmosphere. For Congress, this is a political chess game. For workers and everyday Americans, it's a live nightmare. Shutdown, the debates over subsidies, and the psychological warfare are not just policy issues, they are deeply personal, a stark reminder of how political brinkmanship touches real lives in profound ways.